far, the reviews have been phenomenal. We're just excited about the Maxima and its potential. Okay, I want to congratulate somebody. Javier Mota, Nikoi Juror, congratulations. Congratulations on that. Just a few housekeeping measures I want to take care of. First off, I hope everybody valeted. We're taking care of the valet, so don't worry about that. So when you go back out there, tell them you're with the Nissan program, and they'll take care of. We'll take care of that. We're going to do a presentation this morning, and let me introduce some folks here that are with Nissan. First off, Ken Comp. He's with Product Planning, our Director of Product Planning. Yes, Vishnu Jayamohan. He's also with Product Planning. Those two gentlemen will be talking to you this morning during the presentation. Most of you, I think, know Josh Clifton. This is Jonathan Bueller, also with Product Planning, and Kevin Raftery with Nissan Communications. So we're all here to help you this morning. And everybody knows Tony. He needs no introduction. Tony. But anyway, we're going to do a presentation this morning, and then after the presentation, we'll have some Q&A in here. We'll go downstairs. We've got 7 Maximas there, so you all can pair up into groups. I think we've got about an hour and a half drive or so. It's about 40 minutes out, about 40 minutes back. There's a halfway point. Y'all can switch drivers at the time if y'all want to switch cars or whatever y'all want to do. But we've got plenty of vehicles down there for everybody to pair up and enjoy the drive. Come back, if you can be here around 11:30-ish, I'm guessing, for lunch is probably a good time. We'll have a lunch here, and you're welcome to dine in here or out there. And then we'll have another wave of journalists coming in for lunch, and then a drive in the afternoon. So that's kind of how that will work. But we'll do a walk around of the vehicle downstairs. I think Jonathan's going to do that for you guys. But I think that is pretty much all. Oh, one other thing, we do have images and B-roll on our website, nissannews.com. So if you need any images or B-roll of the vehicle or information specs, it's all there at that location. This deck, I will email you all this morning, so you'll have it in your inbox when you get back to your computers and are able to look at it. So you'll have this deck that you can refer to when you get back. Any questions?
Is there still an embargo?
No embargo. You're free to do your driving impressions, write about those anytime. And I'll turn it over to Ken. You going to start?
Sure.
Turn it over to Ken.
Thanks, Steve. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thanks for joining us. It's Miami's quite a town. We saw lots of great-looking vehicles out there yesterday. I'm just going to touch on a few business aspects of this before I turn it over to Vishnu to explain some of the technical details of our program. Just in terms of sales, we're having a great year so far. And on the right side there, strong May sales of 124,000. I think all of you know crossovers are just really on fire in the market right now, and we're doing really well with Murano and with Rogue. Calendar year to date, for this year through May, we're up 3.4%, so almost 560,000 units so far. Posting some big numbers for Rogue and Murano. Those are really strong products for us right now. In terms of other business aspects, 2014 momentum continues. So in 2014, Nissan division sold 1.4 million units in the U.S. It was up almost 9%. So that's been a really strong tailwind for us. Fuel economy leadership. If you remember last October, the EPA published their trends report, and Nissan was the highest fuel economy full line manufacturer in the U.S. So we're real proud of that, all of the efforts in terms of fuel economy. In terms of safety, autonomous driving, and design innovation, we focus on those for all of our models. And then recently, the new Murano was awarded the Top Safety Pick Plus award for IHS, their crash testing performance. And then, today we're here talking about Maxima, but also we've got other new products coming later this year. We have, the Titan that I'm sure all of you are anxious to drive, and then also we have freshened versions of Altima and Sentra that are coming. So it's going to be a busy year for us at Nissan. You know, in terms of manufacturing, this Maxima is produced in our Smyrna, Tennessee plant. Our Smyrna plant is really, really busy these days. The first Maxima that was assembled in the U.S. was a few generations ago in 2003. You know, since then there have been nearly 790,000 plus units of Maxima, you know, built there in Smyrna. You know, and we also build for export out of the Smyrna plant, so 60,000 units have been built. This particular Maxima generation is going to be going to Canada, Israel, Korea, you know, and a few other markets produced right in Smyrna, Tennessee. We had our job one on April 21st, so you know we've quickly ramped up to full production. And I think what we're especially proud of is Smyrna is now the single highest volume plant in North America for any manufacturer. So you know we finished at 648,000 units last year. You know, and this year we're planning 650,000 units or more. So we currently build 6 of our models there. Maxima is going to be built there. Altima, Leaf, the Rogue, the Pathfinder, and the QX60, you know, are built there. But back to the story of Maxima. So it all started in 1981, so it's been 34 years that this nameplate's been in market for us. You know, and it's one of our strongest brands, you know, that we have. You know, since then, you know, we've gone through 7 generations of Maximas, you know, and this new 8th generation Maxima is what you'll experience today. So through the course of these 7 generations, we've sold 2.9 million Maximas, you know, in the U.S. So it's a big number for us. You know, in terms of how do we do versus the other vehicles in the segment, you know, looking at the last 5 years worth of retail sales, you know, for like vehicles, you know, in this segmentation, like the Impala, the Buick LaCrosse, the Taurus, the Avalon, the Chargers, Chrysler, Hyundai, and Kia. You know, Maxima has been the best-selling retail V6 sedan, you know, in this mid-size to the full-size segment. So with that, that's a little bit of background, you know, on the business aspect, and now I'd like to turn it over to Vishnu, and he'll take you through more of the technical details about the new Maxima.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. I'm going to take you through a quick overview of Maxima, the 8th generation car, give you some background on some of the decisions we make. I'm going to go through it as quickly and concisely as I can, but please stop me if you have any questions, or we can take some Q&A at the end. So I'm Vishnu Jaramohan, by the way. I was the product manager on the car. I've been on the vehicle, working on the vehicle for almost 4 years, so it's been a real labor of love for many of us to show you this car today, so we're very excited for you guys to be here. Before I go into the car itself, quickly I want to set the stage for who Maxima competes with. So on the left side, we've got the traditional sort of large sedan competitors that you think of when you think Maxima. So if you ask JD Power, they say Maxima is a large sedan, and the competitors are other large cars like Toyota Avalon, Chrysler 300, Dodge Charger, the Taurus, Impala, so on. So while Maxima is considered and classified in that class, the way we execute Maxima is a little bit different. We're typically a little bit more sportier than those cars, a bit more fun to drive than those cars, and so we also do cross-shop with the guys on the right side of the screen. These are entry luxury cars, so you know, it's not that we're pulling necessarily buyers who are already in a 3 Series into a Maxima, but rather now you have a buyer who's willing to upgrade, has about $40,000, let's say, dollars that they want to spend on a vehicle, and says, well, now I can afford to buy an entry-level 3 Series. I can afford to buy an entry-level Acura, but I'm choosing to go with a Maxima because I'm getting better value for my money, I'm getting more dynamic styling, and the same level or more performance. So the 4 areas we focused on with this 8th generation car are design, performance, craftsmanship, and technology. So these were the key areas in which we wanted to differentiate the car. Now when it comes to design, we went to the best of the best for inspiration. So we actually went here in Florida to the Blue Angels Naval Air Station in Pensacola. So this is the home of the Blue Angels, and we went there because we wanted to take inspiration from the fighter jets that they use in their squadron. specifically looking not just at the exterior aesthetics of them and how we can incorporate those elements into a car, but even in the interior. For example, we got into the cockpits of the jets themselves. Try to understand what it feels like to actually be in the cockpit of a fighter jet. So when we say Maxima is fighter jet inspired, we genuinely mean that. So we translated those attributes into this concept car that you see behind me. This debuted, many of you may have seen this vehicle in person at the 2014 Detroit Auto Show. So this was called the Sports Sedan Concept. And so as many of you accurately guessed as well, this was a precursor to the Maxima that you see today. But a lot of the elements that we're incorporating include like a very powerful front grille, a lot of surfacing on the side, a lot of deep surface sculpting. But many people saw this car and said, Nissan is not going to build this car for production. It's not going to really translate, as accurately into production. But we feel like we've done a very faithful job in keeping that concept true to production. For example, we blacked out all the pillars in the car. A, B, and C pillars are all blacked out. So it makes it look like the canopy of a fighter jet sitting on top of the car. We've made the car longer. We made it lower as well. We've added lighting elements to the front and the back, LED lighting elements. So day or night, the car is very recognizable. We even push the limits of what our manufacturing plant can do in terms of stamping. So I invite you today, for example, just take a look at the door on a Maxima and look at all the different contours you see on just that one piece of metal. A lot of work gone into making that stand out quite a bit. But the interior as well, that's where we've kind of really tried to imbue it with a jet fighter-like experience, make it a cockpit. So we raised this console, we wrapped it all around the driver. We've also added 15 inches of screen real estate. So we've got a 7-inch meter in front of the driver and an 8-inch screen in the center console. When you think about the outgoing Maxima, the one that we're just phasing out right now, the base model of this car has a 2-line radio display that says 107.5 FM, very simple radio display. So today we're going to this setup standard, so it's a huge leap forward for Maxima in terms of technology. And that 8-inch screen, by the way, has navigation. So that means navigation is standard on all Maximas. In addition to that, we've angled the center console towards the driver, and we moved the start button down to the console as well. So these are two things, lessons learned from the GTR, that we've implemented on Maxima. So what you see behind me is the platinum interior. So this is the highest grade, and you'll see quilted leather inserts, wood trim finishers, and so on. But my personal favorite is the SR interior. So this is more of a sport flavor. This has, we use Alcantara, which is a synthetic suede made in Italy. So it's genuine Alcantara that we're using in this car, something you typically see on high-end sports cars. And you've got attributes like a two-tone steering wheel. So, you've got an Alcantara insert in, a camel color and then a black steering wheel on the outside. So we feel that design-wise, we've accomplished our goal of making the car really stand out among other sedans on the road. Beauty is, of course, in the eye of the beholder, but we feel confident to tell you that the car is something that definitely stands out versus the competition. The other attribute that's Maxima's always been known for is performance. Right? We've called this car the four-door sports car before. And so when it comes to performance, we really did a comprehensive look at all the different attributes that affect that. So for example, we've got a new engine with over 60% new parts. We've got a new transmission, and we've got a redesigned platform. So all these attributes contribute towards a better performance. So I'm going to go into some of those details. So the engine, for example, we changed the cylinder head, improved the airflow. Not only improves power, but improves fuel economy as well. We took some lessons from the GTR. So for example, the GTR uses something called sodium-filled exhaust valves. They implemented that in 2012 on the GTR to increase power. But we added that to the Maxima to get even more power out of our engine as well. We stiffened the oil pan to even reduce vibration, so it's a smoother engine as well, not just one that makes more power. And the result of that is two things. One, the engine is very efficient, so it produces 300 horsepower from just 3.5 liters, which means, that's what that number behind me means, 86 horsepower per liter. So it's a very high, what we call specific output. It means the engine's very efficient at producing a lot of power from the given displacement. It also means that fuel economy is improved as well. We're now going from being second to last in the class in fuel economy to now best in class in terms of combined EPA fuel economy. So a very strong achievement for the car to not only increase horsepower to 300 horsepower, but also achieve best in class fuel economy as well. From a transmission standpoint, it's a next generation of our Xtronic CVT. We've done what we call increasing the ratio range. So before, the old transmission had sort of a ratio spread, that was equal to that of like a 6-speed automatic. Now our ratio spread is more similar to that of an 8-speed automatic. So it gives us a lot of flexibility there to get better fuel economy and better performance. We've reduced the amount of friction inside the transmission as well, a huge reduction, a 40% reduction in friction. We've got some new logic. Many of you have driven our vehicles before. We've experienced a CVT before. What we've done is at low speeds, it behaves, or low throttle inputs, it behaves like a normal CVT. The RPMs go up and then they fall back down. It's very smooth. Our customers have told us they like this experience, no shift shock. At high throttle inputs, that red line right there, you get these shifts that the transmission does, just like a step transmission. And so that gives the customer a more natural feel to the acceleration when they're really stepping on the engine. A lot of boxes below basically tells you that there's a lot of different variables that are considered in the transmission when it comes to where it needs to be, what ratio at what time. The things in red are additional factors considered when you put the car in sport mode. So all Maximas have a normal and a sport button. When you put it in sport, many things change, but one of them is the transmission. So it'll start to take into account how fast you're going around a corner, how hard you're braking, because it knows you're on a twisty, windy road. It starts to keep the RPMs high so that you can accelerate harder out of the corner. The last part is the platform. We stiffened up the platform quite a bit, so the rigidity is up 25%. Usually when you stiffen a platform, it means you add additional bracing or thicker steel or more steel to get that rigidity out of the car. But what we did with Maxima is we did a Nissan first use of a very, very ultra high strength steel. And so what that's allowed us to do is also reduce the weight in the car. So we not only increase the rigidity, but reduce the weight by roughly 82 pounds. So now Maxima is the lightest car in the class, which is a big, another way to put that is, if you look at Maxima versus something like a BMW 3 Series, right, it's a much smaller car, 3 Series, about almost a foot shorter than a Maxima. Maxima weighs 9 pounds less than that car. So that's a pretty strong achievement, again, for a big sedan, a larger sedan, to still be lighter than something as small and as sporty as a BMW 3 Series. So that gives us what we call a higher power to weight ratio. It means that with 300 horsepower, we're pulling around less weight than the competition. The other thing we've done is we've gone with a unique shock absorber design. It's called a monotube shock. Gives you better handling, better responsiveness. And we have an SR grade, as I mentioned before, the sport grade, that has unique suspension tuning as well. Not only that, it has unique tires that were developed specifically for that grade. So all the other grades get Continental tires. The SR grade gets a Goodyear F1 asymmetric tire that was developed specifically with Goodyear for that vehicle. So it's really been developed to optimize the grip and response for that car. The last part of second to last part of the performance equation is we've got some neat software backing up this hardware. For example, we've got something called Integrated Dynamics Control Module. Mouthful is an IDM. What it does is if you think about going over undulations, if you go over an undulation, the nose of the car will pitch up, right? If you hit the brakes, it usually settles the nose of the car back down. What this system does is as you're going over undulations, it applies a little bit of braking to settle the nose of the car back down, so it keeps the ride very flat. So it's a very unique way of using brake intervention to keep the body of the car flat, and something that you don't see in our competition. I talked about that sport mode, changes engine tuning, transmission tuning, the steering gets tighter. On cars with Bose, so that's 3 out of the 5 grades of Maxima, the amount of engine sound in the cabin actually increases as well. And then if you have the Integrated Dynamics Control Module, the IDM, which is on the SR, it'll actually lift the threshold so expert drivers like yourselves can have a little bit more fun before it intervenes. So we talked about fuel economy as well, not just the performance from a dynamic standpoint, but from a fuel economy standpoint, we're going to best in class. So to summarize, new engine, new transmission, new platform. The result, 300 horsepower, best fuel economy in the class, and a very lightest weight in its class as well. My favorite part of Maxima is the craftsmanship, because I think this is where we've spent a lot of time, probably more so than any previous Maxima. To give you some background why we did this, we talked about how we cross-shop with those luxury cars at a little bit on the high end. And to get those buyers to take a look at Maxima, we really need to offer them something that's what we call internally sort of a wow level of quality. They've got to get into the interior of Maxima and say, this is something I did not expect from a Maxima. This is something that's as good as what I'm seeing in XYZ luxury brand.